Hi, I'm Sadik.
And you know what? We're not talking about anime today. This is not the anime episode. That's next week when the new season begins. But Freerun, we talked about it prior, just ended on Friday. And my pitch to you, also I'm Christian, but my pitch to all of you listening is just watch the fucking show. Watch the 28 episodes, live your life, enjoy the story that you're going to, just partake in and thrive. It is good. While they ended it at the end of an arc in the manga, there's still a bunch more manga going on. There's probably enough for another season or so. While that's still happening, the story you're given, it ended on a good place. And frankly, it's just a fantastic show that everyone should watch. So yeah, please watch Frieren. If you don't, I will add you on Signal and consistently spam you with notifications to watch it.
Yeah. So our first story, we doing a lot of music, I guess, talk this week, but which is fine by me. And a good opportunity, good time to talk about one of the or the most important hip hop albums, just like of all time, right? Like it's like I don't think it's like an understatement to say that this album like influenced like artists like of all hip hop artists, and even just like not just hip hop, but just like music. Like it's a big album. We're talking about Madlib. We're talking about Madvillainy. It is the 20th anniversary of Madvillain.
Yesterday was the 20th anniversary. Came out March 23rd, 2004.
Yeah, Jesus. So we have a Pitchfork article. We're just gonna link the archive.org link as well because just in case it disappears.
What's the over under? What goes to shit first? Old Pitchfork links or Bandcamp in the music sphere? Which one's gonna go to shit first?
I would say Pitchfork. Honestly, at the rate the media world is going, I think Pitchfork's articles disappear first. So let's talk about. Honestly, it's been a long time since I've listened to Madvillainy. I'll be real with you. I don't remember the like details of this album, so it's been a minute since I've listened to this. But
well, that's actually interesting if you do listen to it, and I think what you're going to experience, not have recently putting into rotation, is how contemporary it sounds. I'm stealing this from someone I saw on social media posted, so I'm sorry it's not an original idea, but someone referred to this as an album that keeps de-aging as time goes on.
Interesting.
The more contemporary it sounds as time goes on, just because I think the joke has always been that MF Doom and Madlib are like your rapper's favorite rapper, right? But you can hear the influence on it. I mean, outside the fact that like most of Odd Future sampled, tracks off of like this or other MF Doom projects or Madlib projects, and there's a whole run of Madlib and Freddie Gibbs. Kanye has had Madlib produced tracks. There is so much influence here where you can kind of just draw straight lines from things. It's in a similar vein of like old Aphex Twin, right? You listen to a lot of Aphex Twin and you probably are like, you can just draw straight lines to some of the stuff like Porter Robinson, Skrillex, and other people ended up doing. Did with like Future Sound of London and some of those other 90s groups. So it's one of those albums, and it's just the writing on it. The writing on it is so fucking fantastic. It's weird and zany, but it's weird and zany in a time where that shit wasn't the norm, right? Nowadays, like, I mean, what's if I wanted to get over 100 boosts on Mastodon, I could just post a photo of a red panda hugging a tree going beep, and people will just reboost that shit all day, right? Like that's farm bait. And nowadays, like weird stuff like that's the norm, right? Random people just posting jorts because I don't know, something compelled them to post it. But in 2004, having that kind of weirdness just wasn't norm.
Yeah, I mean, can we like contextualize this? Like 2004 was what, like era of
when the College Dropout came out.
So was that still like the era of like 50 Cent? And...
No, it was before it.
Oh, okay. So I'm trying to.
Wait, when did Get Rich or Die Trying? Let me see. Get Rich or Die Trying. Oh, came out 2003. So Get Rich or Die Trying came out a year beforehand.
Well, like I suppose that's so we're in like peak gangster rap, right? Like we're in like the sort of I would call it like the golden age of gangster rap, like 50 Cent being like the height of his popularity, right? Get Rich or Die.
Okay, let me put contextually more. I have a list. All right, here's music albums released in 2004: The Carter 1 by Lil Wayne, The College Dropout, Encore by Eminem.
Okay, that's a big one. Those are all big albums.
Confessions by Usher, Medulla by Bjork. I don't listen to much Bjork, so I don't know.
You don't. I don't think Bjork is okay. So it is. So as far as hip hop goes, I think it's probably the weirdest hip hop album. Like this is not an album that you'd expect to come out in that year, right? Like it's like not an album.
Avril Lavigne was still releasing new music in 2004.
All right, yeah, I'm feeling older now. So that's great. So yeah, it's not an album that's like contemporary. Like when it came out, like I don't think it was like it stood out because it's not gangster rap. It's like this weird zany shit. Like it's like not quite what the rest of the sort of hip hop mainstream was producing and releasing.
And for everyone who's probably listening to it like nowadays, who maybe hasn't checked in affairs, never listened to it before, you're gonna listen to it and be like, oh, this is just like Earl Sweatshirt, Danny Brown doing, and because it fits so well into that modern like that weird like monotone like just loop sample stuff. Because you had a lot of boom bap stuff in that or music in that era, Operation Doomsday, earlier Madlib stuff, but it wasn't like 1 minute of a super weird loop with other just random samples playing, just a verse, then next track. Because I would even argue too that a lot of Madvillainy actually ended up being the precursor to what most modern albums are nowadays, for good and bad.
Like you mean the way the sound
24 tracks, 1 minute, 2 minute songs at most.
Like sampled use of sampling.
No, I'm not talking about use of sampling. I'm talking about how modern, like how long was Culture 3? It was like 30 tracks. How many hip hop albums nowadays are just
too many tracks, honestly.
Super long, super short tracks. The Uzi Vert one with the pinball sample, that was like 28 songs.
Yeah, that was massive. Yeah. So, and it's sort of like, like artists, like contemporary, like, sort of produces like knowledge. I think like it's always I come back to knowledge because knowledge just releases these like all the time on Bandcamp. He releases these like, what do you call them? Like beat tapes? Like
yeah, beat tapes. Yeah,
they're just like beat tapes, and it's just like a lot of samples. Like it's just very short tracks with samples on them. Like and sometimes it's very funny samples. Honestly, that's one sample. Sometimes I listen to what was that sample? I'm talking. I think you know which sample I'm talking about. It's a very funny sample. But anyway,
what the damn son? Where'd you find this?
No, it was sometimes I like knowledge, but sometimes I listen to I forgot what the
I feel like you have to send me a link of it. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, I feel like it's at the tip of my tongue, but I can't remember the whole the whole sort of vocal on it. But
holy shit, Beyonce wasn't even a solo artist when this album came out.
Oh Jesus Christ, man! So this was like
Destiny's Child was still releasing
era.
Music.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Actually, if you want to feel even older, Jay-Z and Linkin Park released their collab album this year.
Yo, that album slaps, by the way. I'm just putting it out that album goes like really hard. It's like it's better than it's supposed to be, better than it feels like it should be. This era of hip hop, I feel like there's a lot of stuff I am not like I would have been like 12. Like how old? Like I was too young to like really be paying attention to hip hop as a genre. So I would like when this stuff all came out, I wasn't like paying attention to like the hip hop subculture. So it's hard to get like the context. I feel like why this is so important as a historical like reference and a historical object.
Well, it's just because the era it came out in, right? Like Green Day released American Idiot this same year. You gotta the reason we keep saying this is this album sounds like it came out in 2020 or 2021. It sounds like some modern Earl Sweatshirt stuff. It sounds like this is when The Alchemist was still rapping. This is before you had like that style of beat production on so many different artists. Griselda wasn't even making music then. And that's the influence it carries on. And that's why it's such an important album to be talking about 20 years later. Because it's aged so fucking gracefully. There are very few albums. I don't think anyone from nowadays is like, you know what, American Idiot, I can listen to that any day of the week. But you get just throw on Madvillainy whenever, and it's a vibe.
Yeah, it's like a timeless sort of like vibe to it. That's
also too MF Doom's fucking run. He also released Food a few months later. Homeboy released 3 albums in the same year that were all classics. I don't know if you ever listened to Food. If you, it's really. You should. I'm gonna say okay. So
I should just listen to like all of. Basically, like all of MF discography. Yeah, that is
MF Doom's discography. Yeah, Also the vaudevillain stuff, Ghidra, other acts. I would say,
Yeah, MF Doom. We could do an entire podcast series on MF Doom. Like, I feel like MF Doom himself is like this, like kind of like a legendary figure at this point, like in hip hop, like sort of culture and like history. It's just like we could do like an entire more than an entire hour talking about like MF Doom and his music sort of career. It's just like a prolific. It's rest in peace, but prolific producer, prolific artist, like really just ahead of his time, like so ahead of his time. It's kind of crazy. Just really honestly, it's crazy. So I do like, okay, this is my question to you. If anybody has not heard MF Doom's work, do you think like Madvillainy is like a good place to start, or do you like, is there like another album that people should
No, you start with Madvillainy. I mean, honestly, if you're trying to give someone a hip hop starter pack, for as good as bad as that sentence sounds,
Yeah.
You start with Madvillainy because it explains so much of why people do things the way they do, right? Like monotone flows, this kind of writing style, this kind of production style. It fills in a lot of gaps that, just by listening to the record, you'll get. Fantastic album. R.I.P. MF Doom. Play Madvillainy, buy it on vinyl. Stone's Throw. Also, this is the album that made Stone's Throw like the record label. Because Stone's Throw didn't have any like it was just Madlib's record label. It did not have a bunch of artists like knowledge and all that beforehand.
Yeah, that's true. Stone's Throw is like I guess you would call it like an underground label. Not really. Like I don't know if it's these days you'd consider it like an underground, but it's like back then it was like definitely like very small label. Like not, it's just underground and underground. So yeah, Stone's Throw, which is still around. That's wild.
Yeah. I think the last thing we could say for one is there's a really good Flying Lotus tweet that I don't have a link to, but when MF Doom passed, all he said is Madvillainy. All you need in hip hop is this record. Sorted, done. Give it to the fucking aliens.
That's good. I love that. That's a great. They should have put that on the golden record that they sent out into space. Honestly, for real. Flying Lotus also. I mean, like side note, like Flying Lotus. If you never listened to Flying Lotus, go listen to Flying Lotus as well. Good shit. So we want to talk about video games for a bit. Dragon's Dogma 2. First, before we get mad about this, I just wanna for the purposes of the discourse, I just want to like link to like Austin Walker's post on this on Remap Radio, because first of all, Austin Walker hasn't written, and I feel like anything like this in a long time, and it is truly incredible to read Austin Walker again. But I'm just gonna put that. But I find it interesting because the only reason I even know about Dragon's Dogma as a video game, as a cultural object, is because of Austin Walker. Like, I don't think I would have ever heard about Dragon's Dogma. It's not a game that sort of was like, the first game is like a cult classic at this point, but it never it would never have reached me otherwise. And Dragon's Dogma 2, Capcom like finally was like, all right, we're gonna make this game, which is I don't think when I first heard about Dragon's Dogma, I was like, no, ain't no way they're gonna make a second game up from this. Like, it was not popular. It was not a game that seemed like it would sell a lot of copies. But here we are in 2024. Dragon's Dogma 2 has been released as we speak, and it is, well, weird. Like, it's very annoying, actually, kind of like, in a way, if you're like, because a lot of the games, like actual game bits, have sort of been taken over by discourse about microtransactions and bad performance, which is not great. So let's talk about the microtransactions first, I think, because that is the most important problem. The performance issues can be fixed easily, and I suppose they will be fixed in a few months' time. But the microtransaction on that. So what's the gist of the microtransactions? So you have microtransactions to buy fast travel objects, like things that give you fast travel, right? Am I understanding that right? That's there are other like ability to, I think there are other problems like ability to create a new character. Like, you can't delete your existing save and create a new character.
You can't re-roll your character without deleting the saves. That's the issue. So let's say right now, I have a character and I'm like, you know what, I want to modify something on them. You have to delete your entire save and redo a new playthrough.
Yeah, that seems like an anachronism. Like, I feel like even older RPGs had like sort of respecking, like,
I think the way to say this is if Starfield lets you do it, Dragon's Dogma shall let you do it.
yeah, I mean, Dark Souls lets you do it. Like, it's like not like it's not a particularly new or new concept to have an RPG where you can respec, right? Like that's a concept that has been around a long ass time. Like it would make RPGs extremely inflexible if people couldn't respec to a certain amount, right? So yeah, like these microtransactions, like I think the biggest sort of point of this that has been sort of brought up is that these microtransactions are not present at all in review builds of the game. So reviewers, when they play this game and review the game, and the reviews came out, there was zero mention of these microtransactions. Like they were not there because they weren't put in the review builds, which meant that like the review builds are misleading in that sense. Like it's not. It's like the reviews are in a way misleading. Like it's not complete. Like you have to like sort of go to the game. Like you look at Steam, it's like sitting at mixed or negative. Like it's and I don't think Steam reviews are like the end all be all of anything really, honestly, because they're easily brigaded. But there is a certain vibe to this game where people are like, why would I play this game? Why, like, this is a single player game, first of all. This is $70. Like, by the way, this is a $70 title, $70 title, with my single player game with microtransactions, which were not present in the review build. So I think a lot of people are just like, you know what, I'm not gonna play this game. Like, it's not worth. Like it's like, even though there a lot of the actual game stuff in there is pretty fun if you're like into this kind of RPG. It's like, even I, like, honestly, I've been considering picking this game up, not yet. I was thinking of picking this game up in May after I play Horizon Forbidden West, which came out on PC in the same day. But right now I'm thinking like, I need to wait longer. Like I feel like there's also the performance issues that I mentioned, which we can link to the Digital Foundry video on it, I think, which goes into why like it's bad on both all the consoles as well, and then the PC versions as well. It's just the CPU multi-threading seems a little sketchy there. It doesn't take advantage of the CPU properly. It seems surprisingly CPU heavy, which yeah. That's Dragon's Dogma. I don't know. Have you played the original Dragon's Dogma? It feels like a game you might have played. Not me, but
I have not played original Dragon's Dogma, and honestly, when I look at games like Dragon's Dogma and other games, all I think to myself is, hey, what if someone did this but in a first person style and it had the same combat as Destiny? I would fuck with that. I want first person Souls like games.
So you want Destiny but Skyrim? Like, is that what you want? Like
No. I want that Souls like experience where you gonna get rocked and then rock with it. But I would like it in a first person way and not in like a third person slow moving combat way. I think there's something to be done with that. Bungie has kind of explored with it in some of the dungeons in Destiny, but I feel like there's a gap there, and there's totally room to be able to make that into something that is interesting. But this microtransaction surprise trend has actually happened with a few games recently, and I think Metacritic is bad. I think the reviews industry is weird because they talked about an Aftermath a while ago. I think it was a Jason Schreier episode of the podcast, but to me it seems weird that we are reviewing art like products. If you actually go back to Pitchfork, go back to the Pitchfork review Madvillainy, it is not reviewed like a product. And if games are art, like it's.
So I think we need to like, this is like I feel like this is sort of like a semantics discussion, but also like a philosophical discussion. Like, what is a review? Is it a critique or a critique of the art, or is it a buyer's guide? Like, is it?
I think there's two. There's a line in the sand. Is when you're reviewing something that's a little more, no, all you have to do with music. There's a technical aspect of it, and once it meets the technical bar of quality, the rest of it is all subjective, and the rest of it is all just a conversation on art and how it moved you or how you feel about that art. I think a good example of music is mixing and mastering. You have an album that is poorly mixed, it is clipping, it is actually unlistenable because you cannot hear what is being said. That may be the artist's intent, but if it's obviously not the artist's intent, then that would not be the technical bar quality for what you would expect from an album. If everything's super loud or super quiet, and it just makes it where like you're not able to actually enjoy the art, the intent of whatever the album's supposed to be. And I think the same thing goes for games where yes, there's a technical bar where is it crashing? Does it have de novo? Microtransactions here, but then afterwards it should just be only a conversation about the art itself. And I think that's where games reviews are mostly like, a lot of games reviews tend to be copying what tech reviews do, where it's like, yes, here's this product. And I mean, The Verge has done a lot of it where they do tend to talk about like what that product feels or like you feel like using it. But I think for a lot of people, we kind of understand that like, hey, if I'm going to, read the latest iPhone or Pixel review, I'm probably just wanting to know, like, do these new features work as advertised? Is it like competent battery life? And I already know what I can do with it, so I don't need that much explained to me for the basics. But that's not how we should be talking about games. And a lot of it is like, this quest system was neat. And all right, I guess we went to the next point, where it should be, I think, a lot more of a deeper conversation on the art, and that's a harder skill, though. I think that's why not enough people do that.
That's and that's a skill that's not. I mean, games critique and games journalism has never paid well, but I would say like the subsection of games writing that could be called games critique is like basically non-existent at this point, because like nobody's paying for it. Like nobody wants to pay. Like there are very few publications that are paying writers to write what I would consider like games critique, right? Like the stuff that Austin Walker wrote for Remap Radio, like that kind of thing, right? Like that kind of writing, but the more like sort of subjective, sort of talking about the art for the sake of the art, and not like the technical aspects of the creation of the art in a sense, feels like so rare nowadays. Like I feel like there's only very few small magazines or websites. I don't know if Paste magazine is still around, or like there are some like other smaller games magazines that did this kind of sort of more critique level writing. It doesn't get views, so it doesn't get clicks. And in an industry where that is so focused on like ad revenue and page views, that stuff like a nuanced critique of like a mechanic or like a story, a narrative from a video game is not going to get us as same amount of like sort of views as like just like a straight up more basic like technical review, which I do kind of agree that games shouldn't be reviewed entirely on the merits of their technical ability, because if we did that, it would be extremely boring.
That's true. I mean, I guess most game reviews, like if we need to take the most cynical view of it, I mean, given what's happening to Kotaku this week, with the editor-in-chief leaving, is probably actually not that cynical. It's more accurate than not. But most game reviews probably just exist at links or to increase SEO ranking of the guides for that game.
Okay, I mean yes, but also I don't think that's entirely true either. I think it's kind of like this sort of like it's like I think there are still writers writing good reviews. I read reviews often, actually.
I'm not talking about from the writer's perspective. This is from the game site's perspective. If for most like Geo Media, Future, PLC, whatever the ones that run the big sites are, whoever the fuck, Tencent, whoever the fuck's behind fandom, whatever company owns fandom right now, like for all of their perspective, I'm pretty sure they'll look at a game review and they're like, well, this is a great way to silo on new people who want to access our guides content, because that's where we make a bunch of money.
Exactly. It's like a way to drive traffic to the site to stuff that actually gets a lot of views, which is the most cynical way to look at it. But yeah, that's it is, the industry is like that, which is unfortunate. Dragon's Dogma, I'm on an RPG kick really recently. I've played a lot of more RPGs than I have recently, and I do want to play Dragon's Dogma 2 at some point. I don't know when. Maybe I'll play later in the year, or maybe I'll play next year. But I'm planning on eventually. At least when the technical problems are resolved or mitigated, I will pick it up. Is there anything else to say about Dragon's Dogma before we move?
Yeah. I'm happy that y'all got. It's genuinely a good time, and people get sequels that are called classics. But I am not going to be surprised if you see Capcom do some kind of BS in an investor meeting, being like, "This is why we can't make games like this because it doesn't meet some like asinine sales expectation."
Yeah, they're gonna be like, oh, it sales fell below expectations, like Square Enix always does.
But it's Dragon Dogma. I don't. What expectations were? There's probably a million.
Yeah, what expectation? It's it's like, yeah. I'm surprised this game got made in the first place. Honestly, like I wasn't expecting Dragon's Dogma 2 to be a thing that exists. So I know. So let's talk about this is one of your hobby horses, I think. Because we're about to get into I don't know why everybody has their thing, but anti-cheat. We're talking about specifically anti-cheat on PC titles. There was a story recently about Apex Legends finals, Apex Legends esports final, sort of postponed after suffering what is like a remote execution exploit, remote code execution exploit, RCE, that happened to players while they were in match in during the tournament, which I don't think I've ever actually seen happen. I think this might be the first time this has happened in sort of any significant kind of way, a significant game. And that sort of brings us to our sort of conversation about anti-cheat, which is why is anti-cheat why is kernel anti-cheat a thing, right? Like this is your thing. So I'll let you introduce this. Like why? What's the deal?
Yeah. So I want to take even of a bigger step back. So I think it is safe to say that on most gaming PCs, most regular PCs, a lot of people, for better or worse, will install software that they think will help them with their games, right? Or that software that is able to access a lot of parts of their system to help control their PC. Basically from hardware stat info to other GPU monitoring tools, the NVIDIA driver, of course, AMD driver, and also RGB controllers. And what I don't understand from Microsoft's perspective is, why do they let all of that get just outsourced to third parties and not be integrated into the OS? And not in like a control everything perspective, but like in a, all of this stuff could be easily exposed by APIs that the OS controls and not drivers or things that the kernel, that you need kernel access for. It seems like a lot of this gaming software is probably some pretty fucking big security holes, especially as most gamers like don't use much anti-malware software because it does have an impact on gaming performance, right? Like there's actual reasons where you don't want to have stuff standing in the background when you're trying to play a game, especially if you don't have a baller like 4090 system where you can't brute force stuff. You're like on a more moderate, 3060, 3070 Core i5, more mid-spec system. And that's what's weird to me, is that it's all outsourced. It's all just other outsourcing is a bad word. It's all like not done in-house. It's not Microsoft official stuff. And they should just start, I think, implementing some of this, because I think it's getting to the point where it is a like actual security vector for devices to be compromised. Because if you want to go after an affluent market, right, with ransomware or whatever, the gamers, bro, gamer raids, gamers pay so much money. Gamers pay 3 times the same amount for the same quality microphone or headset just because it integrates with their RGB controller. Like they don't know what the fuck they doing. So this goes to a little more closer to Apex, where if you look at macOS, right, you have like the Secure Enclave and other stuff. And what Apple does is for games through the App Store is they don't have like necessarily anti-cheat built in per se, but because it's a signed binary and it's running in the sandbox, it's a lot harder to do on macOS, if that makes sense, right? You would have to turn off system integrity protection, and the game will be able to know that, right? Like you can check if that's turned on or off and turn off specific features. Like, if you have some features enabled, you can't record screens on macOS, that kind of stuff. So the system will make that available if you're worried about the integrity of the environment it's operating in. But on Windows, there's not like a very similar feature. Microsoft does in Windows 11 have some like memory protection stuff with the TPM chip, but it's just weird to me that they do not have like a built-in anti-cheat system that also relies on hardware security chips, some kind of integrity there. Because while there is a case to be made, but what if that hardware chip has an exploit in it? I mean, the OS will probably have more. So I think there's a trade-off there, and you can build it in a way where it's just checking if it's been tampered with. It's not like scanning everything on your system, or checking for specific behaviors that would go against whatever the expected output is of the game logic itself, or more importantly, just use like an actual hardware TPM or whatever to validate the integrity of the operating environment, or sandbox the game in a way, since it's being offloaded to hardware, is not going to have a huge impact on performance because it's not trying to do some software anti-cheat stuff, and doesn't need to give random third parties access to your kernel. Because I just keep repeating this every time people are like, yeah, I need anti-cheat installed, I have easy anti-cheat, I have these 10, I have Ricochet, I have whatever they use in Call of Duty. And do you trust Activision Blizzard of access to your kernel? Do you trust Riot Games of access to like all the memory on your computer?
Yeah, this is not a new thing, right? I remember when Valorant first came out, right? This is not a new talking point. Like when Valorant first came out, like there was a lot of discourse about like I think Valorant was the first big game to implement kernel level anti-cheat, right? Before that, games did have anti-cheat, but they were not running in kernel. They didn't have kernel level privileges. They were running in like user mode, which meant that they didn't have as much access to various things as code running in kernel mode does. Just by the nature of where the kernel sits in the perspective of the operating system. Valorant was running this, and I remember that at the time everybody was like, "Oh, we shouldn't give like anti-cheats like access to the kernel. Like, why are we running stuff in kernel mode? Like, why are we running this particular bit of software in kernel mode? Like this, especially software that's like looking at processes, looking at memory. That seems a little bit, too much privilege for a piece of software to have." And I think the discourse sort of died down after a while, as these things, gamers can't pay attention to anything for more than a week. So like it didn't seem to affect Valorant's popularity or anything. So it's like a discourse that kind of people don't like to think about it. It's like, I'm gonna install these video games and they're gonna install these other pieces of software that's like, I don't know exactly what it's doing, and it's gonna sit in kernel space doing whatever the fuck it wants. And yeah, I do agree that software like this should not exist like this, because I think it's a massive like surface area for vulnerabilities. Like I think it's only a matter of time before, like in the case of the Apex Legends hack, we don't know if it was caused by a vulnerability in easy anti-cheat, which Apex Legends uses, or Apex Legends itself, like Apex Legends server or client-side code. Like we don't know what the source of the vulnerability was. But it's only a matter of time before like some major game gets like an RCE that is exploited because of like code running in kernel space. I don't trust any of these companies, honestly. Denuvo, Easy Anti-Cheat, Ricochet, Riot Games, like, ain't no way I trust video game programmers to make good anti-cheat, honestly.
Like the only reason I say trust Microsoft to do it is because they're the OS vendor, and they have more of an incentive to make it not shit, right? Like they have more of the anti-cheat vendors, like what's the incentive structure here, right? So we're welcome to the Vergecast. We're stealing what words they use. But the incentive structure of the anti-cheat platforms or those vendors is prevent cheating at all cost, regardless of performance impact, right? That's a nice to have, but the North Star there is always going to be anti-cheat. Whereas Microsoft's like, hey, we would want to make one that makes using Windows nice because we want people to do everything on Windows. We want them to game, etc. We don't just want this game to work well. We have a more holistic approach because we're the OS vendor. And more so, they also have the power to force some like motherboard configurations and stuff that might make it a little bit easier, right? Like Easy Anti-Cheat's never going to get MSI, Gigabyte, and Asus all on board with, hey, for gaming PCs, we really like it if you have this stock configuration on the motherboard because it'll help anti-cheat better, or help this anti-cheat that's built in work better. Which is coming to, they actually used to have an anti-cheat. I knew it was off the top of my head because this is the person I am. The Windows 10 Fall Creators Update. Do you remember that? It brought Windows Mixed Reality and My People
Oh my God, Jesus! We're not getting into my people. This is the wrong podcast for that.
But it did also bring a new anti-cheat system that was built into Windows, similar to how I'm sort of talking about, only for UWP games though, called TruePlay. It never went live, and it randomly got removed.
Yeah, probably because it didn't get any actual traction from developers.
Like no game ever shipped using it is what I'm saying. So like no, yeah.
Because honestly, who wants to ship games in UW like Windows 10? UWP is, I mean, we can't go into UWP.
It's over. UWP is dead. It's dead.
Because
it's
that's
dead.
a whole other
it's not even alive anymore.
Whole other can of worms. But most developers most game developers who are releasing games on Windows are releasing them either on Steam or on like the Epic Game Store or on itch.io if you're like in a small indie title, right? Like you're not gonna release on the Microsoft Store. Like who the fuck releases on the Microsoft Store except for except for games that go on Games Pass, I guess. Like you're not releasing
Xbox Play Anywhere is a requirement for Game Pass. Yeah, so that's why.
It's there's still this problem with like the whole Windows ecosystem being extremely variable in hardware and software. Like there's a lot of different kinds of hardware. There's a lot of old hardware out here that still is fully capable of running video games, right? Like,
well, that's what I'm saying. It should be like an add-in card or something for this, right? Like I'm saying you could. It's a Pluton chip. You can get that on. I think it's enterprise only right now, but something similar to that, where it shipped on a lot of motherboards of like enterprise laptops. The Pluton chip. I think it's also they basically took the same security chip that's on an Xbox and they started shipping it in Windows PCs. Yeah, the Microsoft Pluton security processor is what it's called. So something similar to that where, okay, so maybe it could be built in the motherboards for laptops and all that. But if you have an older computer, just run it via PCI or whatever, right? Or including like if someone upgrades their motherboard.
Yeah, I think Microsoft is just like doesn't want to get involved in this business. It feels like they don't. It doesn't seem like they particularly want to care about this at all. I think you're gonna this is always gonna be a discourse point for you because it's not gonna get resolved.
Yeah, I mean, and hey, is this year I finally switched to Windows for gaming? Who knows? But you know what would get me to switch a lot better? Listen, you have a nice easy cheat solution. I'm buying a PC tomorrow.
Oh, okay. All right, Microsoft, you heard it here first.
One new customer, one new fucking weirdo on your platform.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about another video game that I finished actually yesterday. I finished it yesterday. Been playing it throughout this month. Banishers: Ghosts of New Eden, which is a hell of a title. So this game, like I had like this is not a game I wasn't looking forward to it. I didn't know even it existed until I saw a review of it on Rock Paper Shotgun. Shout out to Alice Bell over there who wrote the review. And it is like a third person, they call it like third person goth tragedy action adventure RPG, is what Rock Paper Shotgun called it in their little sidebar. And there was enough of things that I liked, third person action adventure, kind of like the God of War game from 2018, kind of that vibe going on. This is like, you ever play a game where it's like, this is good, like this is everything it's doing is fine, like, but it's not doing anything special, right? Like it's like just like kind of it's like a 7 out of 10 game, like it's not, it's like, I think the strongest part of it is the narrative stuff that's going on. I think the voice acting is really, really good. The visuals and the aesthetic of the game and the theme, the way that it sort of like has a aesthetic consistency with the theme, like is very, very good. Like some of the creepy New England in winter vibes is very good. Mechanically, it's a little bit like kind of try to do like the whole third person combat thing like God of War does. And it sort of works. It's like it gets very repetitive, especially because it's like a 40-hour game. And by the time you get to like the end game, the last 2 chapters of the game, you're just sort of like, I don't want to do any more combat because it's just like it just becomes so similar. Like the combat doesn't have enough variety in it for it to sustain like 40 hours of gameplay. And there's a lot of combat, and the thing is, there's a lot of combat because enemies respawn when you rest or fast travel. So you could just be like doing collectible stuff across the map, and then you just enemies just will randomly spawn and you have to fight them. Like you can't avoid them, and you just have to fight them. And which made this a 7 out of 10 game, because I think it's kind of, I wish it was shorter, and also I wish it didn't have as much combat as it did, or the combat was better. It just kind of, that's how I'm feeling about this one. Banishers, Ghost of New Eden, developed by Dogma, who are also the developers of the Life is Strange games. It's very weird. Very different game from Life is Strange. But yeah, it's Dogma, published by Focus Entertainment. It's worth. I still think it's a decent game. If you're looking for like a sort of like I suggest people read the review, but like if you're looking for this kind of gameplay and this sort of environment of like ghost haunted stuff, spooky stuff, like go play that. It's pretty good. So that's Banishers, Ghosts of New Eden. I don't think you played this. I would be surprised if you played this. I don't know anybody else who has played this.
Yeah, I haven't played it yet. I'm actually taking this time to currently spec out a Razer Blade 14. So continue.
Oh, you're hold on. Okay. All right, sure. That's good. Finally, it's happening, folks. It's happening. I told you to buy a gaming laptop. That's the best.
It's actually I'm gonna take advantage of this. This game sounds great. I just genuinely have not. It's just the first time I'm hearing of this game.
So, no, yeah, I don't like. It's hard to talk about this game because literally nobody else has talked about this.
So actually, I'm gonna call upon the PC gamers. All right, PC gamers, channeling your energy. I don't know what I'll do. I'll just wave an RGB controller in the air a few times. But the Asus Zephyrus 14 or the Razer Blade 14. Sorry, Asus ROG Zephyrus G14.
Jesus Christ.
Which one's the better gaming PC? Because my thing is, if we're gonna like, I don't know. Actually, hold on. Now that you asked me this question, Rock Paper Shotgun actually does, like, I mean, they used to. I don't know if they still do, but if you like look up those laptops on their site, they might have reviews for it, and their reviews are pretty good for gaming laptops. So you might wanna actually go to rockpapershotgun.com and search. All right, let's see. Zephyrus G14. All right, Rock Paper Shotgun. Okay, they have a 2022. Do we have a 2024 model? I mean, it's 2 years old, but I know a gaming computer's, same model name, but everything changes. Yeah. Okay, so we have this one from here. What's the hardware review that is recent? Because I love how this just turned into the let's buy shit during the podcast hour.
During the podcast episode, yes, very good.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, 2022 looks like when they stopped doing laptop reviews. Yeah, but I'll look into some. Some reviews there.
Yeah, there might be other reviews. I mean, that's not the only place that does hardware reviews, but yeah, I'm really not familiar with like the market of gaming laptops as a whole, so I can't. Personally, I wouldn't buy a Razer product. Like, I just don't trust Razer to make good hardware, but that might not be the case with laptops, so I don't actually.
Yeah, I mean, well, I've only ever had 2 Razer things. So I had 3. I had the microphone, which I don't use because I have a dynamic mic now. I don't need a desktop microphone. I had the mechanical keyboard, and I had the mouse. The mouse worked fine. The keyboard, the P key stopped working. But so that's only 1 out of 3 things, and it's a really small sample size. So isn't the PC, isn't it stuff supposed to be repairable, right?
Not with laptops, I don't think. But you could. I mean, some parts are probably replaceable, but probably not the whole thing. So do we? Well, I have some books and music to talk about. I want to talk about the music first? So let's.
You want to talk about the rap beef? I know. Go for it.
Wait. What rap beef? I'm not aware of.
Future Metro Boom, We Don't Trust You, the Kendrick album.
Oh, that. Okay. I was like, is there something else I'm not aware of?
Drake's another beef. Listen, okay. So I will introduce this one. I will introduce this one. So there's books in there. Go read the books. They're good books. We're not talking about books right now. We're talking about music, real stuff, real gamer hours. So basically, Future and Metro Boomin, there's a track called Like That, which has a very good 3 6 Mafia sample in it. And Kendrick Lamar comes for Drake and J. Cole, and it's very funny, and people are freaking out over it.
Yeah, so he's like top 3, it's just top me, right? Which is just like, oh boy. I don't know where this is coming from, why this is happening, or like but this is the most interesting thing that has happened in hip hop in a minute. So I suppose like we talk about it. Uh, I don't understand where the sentiment is coming from though. I don't know why Kendrick would be in this state of mind. I don't know if it is actually serious or it's just like him just kind of having fun, like just not being entirely serious. It's just kind of the weird thing rappers do where they talk shit about other rappers, but they don't actually like mean it. They don't mean it in a serious way. Like it's kind of just having fun with bars. Like I don't know. Do you think it's serious? Do you think it's actually like it actually means something?
No, I don't think it's serious at all. I think he's just memeing. I think he's just memeing.
I think it's memeing. Like it feels weird to like put that thing in like a feature for like a future album. Like it just doesn't seem like the place Kendrick would do something like that if he was serious about it. So I don't know. I feel like he would release a track of his own. I feel like so. Yeah, we're Metro. Featured Metro Booming. We Don't Trust You. Very good background music. I would call it. Like it's not particularly incredible. There's some good tracks on it. Like that is the good Sam. Metro Booming is a good producer. I mean, that's all. That's the thing that carries this album. Really, is not Future. Really, I don't think Future is the thing that carries any album. I don't think Future is good. Like this, I don't think this is a hot take. I don't think Future is like okay. Let me rephrase that before like I don't know. Future stands in our audience get mad at me.
Bro, they exist. Go to r/Future on Reddit. It's not a great place.
Look, I'm not okay. Look, I think Future's music is just sort of it's a sort of vibe. It's like the music of Don Toliver to me, like where it's just like I'm not really listening to it for lyrics or like kind of like the. Like I'm not listening to it. I'm just like listening to like I don't know like a no name album or like I don't know like a Griselda like Benny the Butcher album. I'm not coming here for lyricism or anything. I'm just here for like the vibes, like the sort of the Metro Booming produced vibes here. So it's a good vibes album. It's not anything more than that, and that's fine. So that's hip hop. I have 3 other album recommendations. These are kind of very. All of these are different genres, I suppose. Fortet released a new album by the name of 3 this past week. Fortet is like an electronic artist, and if you like electronic music, sort of. We mentioned Aphex Twin earlier, Future Sounds of London. I feel Fortet's music very much feels that kind of era of sort of ambient, not quite ambient, but electronic, sort of down tempo electronic stuff. It's very good. It's a vibe. It's not a long album. It's nice and short, 8 tracks. It's a good time. I have another album. This one is like call it house album. It's by Sofia Cortesis, called Madres. Very, very sort of chill, nice, sort of laid back house album. It's a good vibe. The last album I got is very different. It is okay. So this is my question. When I say the genre alternative, what do you think that means? By the way, that's my question. Like, what do you think alternative
rock? I think alternative rock is normally the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah, that's the question. It's so vague to me. Like, I know, like this album on Bandcamp is tagged as alternative and Kansas City, but it is like not rock. I don't think it's. I wouldn't classify it as rock, and I would classify it more as like sort of folk music. It's a lot of acoustic guitars and singing on it. And so I don't know if it counts as rock, but whatever it is, whatever the genre is, it's a very sort of it's a very lyrics focused album. I need to listen to it more. Honestly, I've only listened to it once, and I did enjoy what I listened, but it's sort of nice vibe to it. Waxahachie's Tiger's Blood. Tiger's Blood is the name of the album. It's good stuff. It released this Friday. So those are my music. Do you have any music recommendations? I feel like I just brought like 4 albums, but I mean 3 albums, but I don't know if you have any albums other than Madvillainy, I suppose.
Yeah. I have one music recommendation, and that's is the AMD Radeon RX 6800S better than a 3060? I actually have recommendations. That is a question I have an answer to as I'm specking out these computers, but I do actually have recommendations before we go into gaming talk.
Yeah, I was very confused. I was like, is that a name of a track or an
Fire
album?
First and foremost, Blue Lips, Schoolboy Q, fantastic album. It's just a rap album. Matt Champion, finally the first post Brockhampton like solo album, the first good one, because Kevin Abstract's album was trash.
Wait, no, I didn't know he released an album.
Mika's Laundry, Matt Champion just came out, fire. Beyonce is going to drop her album in 5 days. Important alert, her country album.
Well, when is that? Is that like
the 29th, Friday?
Oh shit! That's gonna be a good Friday. I'm looking.
Mike dropped Pinball recently. That's another good one. We could throw that Madvillainy influence all across Pinball. And I think for new albums I've been fucking with, it's basically been those. The new Ariana Grande albums, like I actually kind of been enjoying it. I didn't even know Ariana Grande released a new album. Yeah, it's called Internal Sunshine or something like that. Also, the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth soundtrack is out, so you know.
Oh, is it good?
I have not listened to it yet. I'm just looking at new releases, and I saw that there. Yeah, so you know, so we have some good records out there. First and foremost, it really is going to be the Schoolboy Q one, but yeah. So back to the question: is a 6800 better than a 3060? Or is it? I
don't know. Actually, what I would do is I would go look at a review of a 3060 and see if there are.
Remember, it's a laptop though. Remember, laptop processors are so fucking confusing.
I don't.
Because it's about the wattage too.
I really don't know. I don't know if it's better.
All right, portable gamers out there. I know y'all listening. Portable gamers, rise up and please let me know what is a good gaming laptop that will play Destiny, you know, at 1440p ultra. I think is, you know, pretty. What would I aim for? 120 FPS, 1440p mid spec. Like, I don't know what the gamers want.
Yeah. Please help Christian get into PC gaming finally at long last.
Don't do 4K screens, right? You want with gaming laptops, you don't want 4K?
No, don't do 4K because you're not like this. 4K is a fucking trap. Like, don't.
But do I have to run a native res? So this is an actual question. This is like a genuine question. I'm not memeing. Why not 4K for desktop use and then just run the game at 1440p versus a 1440p native monitor? What is the upsides and downsides for scaling like that?
Power usage on the screen. You're just driving more pixels. So you're just gonna, like, if you're gonna play the game, if you're gonna use the laptop on battery, you're just burning power for, like, really. I don't think it's enough of a good reason on a laptop to sort of spend that much power to generate that many pixels for what. So that's I look at it from a power budget to resolution perspective. Like, it doesn't make sense. If it's a desktop and you want to do 4K and you want to run games at 40p, that's okay, sure, whatever. But like, if you a laptop, like, I don't see, like, unless you really need the 4K resolution on the screen for reasons like you
okay, that makes sense. And another question here: AMD or NVIDIA for the GPU, does it matter nowadays? I actually don't know these things.
Okay, so I actually. This is a question I can't answer. I did switch, so I can answer this question. Okay, so there is...
Oh, you just switched. You actually just switched. So yeah, okay, go off.
Two factors really that sort of matter in this case, I would say. I mean, really one at this sort of okay, two. It is sort of upscaling features and ray tracing. So this. So if you really care about ray tracing, like if you really want ray tracing features, you have to go NVIDIA because nobody else, like NVIDIA's ray tracing.
But if a 3060 or anything below a 4070, it doesn't matter, right? Anything below like a 4070, you'd be better off getting higher FPS with ray tracing off, I would assume.
That's probably true. I mean, it's really a matter of priorities. Like, if you care about, like, you want to run games with ray trace 30 FPS, but like, it's really a matter of perspective. It's really a matter of what you want to do with your games, or rather what you usually do with games. It's just like, do you want ray tracing, or do you want to run like games at 30 FPS? Like, if you want that, you want to get an NVIDIA GPU, right? The second thing is upscaling, which means that you want to look at sort of AMD's FSR technology versus NVIDIA's DLSS technology, right? So DLSS and FSR are like the big ones here. So, and it's like, personally, when I bought the AMD Radeon, 7900 XTX. Jesus, it's fucking these names. When I made a decision, I was like, FSR is getting better. Like FSR 3.3 is gonna come out soon. Like, and more games are supporting FSR like out of the box. So like, and it's I think Nvidia's sort of dominance in the DLSS space is kind of coming to an end. So personally, I would go with the AMD GPU because I don't care about ray tracing. I've found, despite having one of the first one of the like big GPUs that supported like hardware ray tracing, the 2080 Ti. I basically never used that feature, so I would say go with an AMD card.
Is now the right time to buy a gaming PC then, or should I wait until the fall refresh? Or back to school?
Now is a decent time. Now is a good time to buy. Like that question is always like when you buy the hardware when you need the hardware, but if you like,
I mean, I'm going to sell the MacBook for it. That'd be the idea. Just sell the MacBook Air and then pick one up. Yeah.
Okay. Just get it. It's fine. Like all the hardware right now is in a pretty good state. Like I don't think there's any significant upgrades to be coming. Like, sure, if you wait like a year or so, you probably get like the next generation of NVIDIA or AMD chips. But like, I don't think it's worth waiting that long. Personally, like,
if you wait a year, you end up getting AI features put on everything because all these Intel chips with the NPU stuff.
Exactly. So yeah, exactly. So just good hardware out here right now. Even though GPU prices are kind of out of whack, but they're better than they were. So now is a good time before prices go up again for the new GPUs. So
right.
So yeah. Okay. So that's PC corner, I guess. I don't know why we turned this into a PC corner episode, but
I mean, listen. Once you switch to Android, everything opens up in your world. You know what I mean? Also, too, actually, here's the real reason. You know what? This is not a technical review. This is the emotions. This is critiquing art. I was looking at handhelds and then I'm like, these are all compromised, right? I think we talked about it in our Signal chat. They're just not there yet. But I do actually want a better gaming setup because right now I'm on the Series S and it doesn't make sense to me to upgrade to a newer Xbox, right? And as much as I meme about cloud gaming, because GeForce Now is really good nowadays, there are just some games that don't run there. Like if I wanted to get into Final Fantasy 14, I just can't, right? And more importantly, paying for Game Pass and GeForce Now is and PC Game Pass is really good now. Like PC Game Pass is actually starting to get really good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, PC gaming is in a really good place, despite hardware prices being kind of questionable. But it is in a really.
I mean, listen, I come from MacLad. I'm looking at this $1,200 Zephyrus. I can't speak laptop, and it has 16 gigs of RAM and a terabyte hard drive. That's unheard of in this part of town.
That's true. Yeah. That's welcome to the world of PCs, I suppose. We will. I have a few books to recommend. I think we'll just end it off sort of there. I'll do a quick. I don't want to lengthen this podcast any longer, but I have 4 books I read this past month. Only 3 of them I would really recommend. I read the first one, Translation State by Anne Leckie. I did not really like this one. This is probably the first book this year I did not enjoy reading all the way through. I felt it kind of dragged on. The concept was not executed well. But if you like Anne Leckie, if you've read Anne Leckie's other sort of books, sci-fi, then you might enjoy this one. I also read 3 other sort of nonfiction titles this month. It's been a theme of getting books from the library and reading nonfiction. Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates, which is a nice short sort of. It's hard to describe the book. I don't know how else you describe it. It's like a letter. It's written in the form of a letter to his son, and it's really worth the read. Hood Feminism by Mickey Kendall, also extremely good. And then The Wretched of the Earth by Frantz Fanon, which is an older text that's from 1960. But still, if you're a leftist, you should probably read that one. So that's all I'm going to say on those. Let's wrap up. We can find the show notes on foxels.fm. You can find me on Mastodon at packetcat at pinforward.social and on my website, sonicsafe.com. And Christian, where do people find you on the internet?
You can find me posting hot takes about web apps, actually. Web apps on at lo-fi carrots at mstdn.plus. You can find me on our website, choosefine.website.
Yeah. All right. And with that, goodbye.
Bye.